Alright, let's get right into it. Everyone loves the glitz and the glamour of Hollywood, the red carpets, the million-dollar smiles, and the fairy tale lives we see on screen. But what if I told you that behind that glittering curtain, there's a much darker side? A side where fame, money, and secrets can lead to terrifying endings, and where some of the most shocking stories never get a proper ending. That's right, today, we are pulling back that curtain and stepping into the shadows. We are looking at the chilling real-life mysteries that stumped detectives, confused the public, and left gaping holes in the history of Tinseltown. These are not movie plots. These are true crimes that happened to some of the industry's biggest names, cases that grew cold with time but never stopped haunting those who remember. So, if you think you know everything about Hollywood's dark secrets, think again. I promise you, the details of these unsolved murders will shock you, and one of them, especially the final case we will talk about, is so bizarre and twisted that it will change how you look at old Hollywood forever. Make sure you watch all the way to the end for that one. Our first story takes us back to the golden age of Hollywood, to a time of starlets and studio bosses, and to a crime so brutal it has never been matched. The victim was a young, aspiring actress named Elizabeth Short, though the world would come to know her by a more poetic and tragic name, the Black Dahlia. In January of 1947, her life ended in a scene of pure horror. Her body was found posed in a vacant lot in Los Angeles, severed at the waist and drained of blood. The crime scene showed a level of surgical precision that horrified even the most seasoned police officers. It was clear this was not just a murder. It was a deliberate, calculated display. Elizabeth had dreams of fame, but her path was difficult. She moved through the edges of the Hollywood scene, meeting many people, and her personal life was complicated. The police investigation that followed was one of the largest in Los Angeles history. They followed over 150 leads and even brought in several suspects for intense questioning. But every path led to a dead end. The killer, or killers, seemed to vanish into thin air. What makes the Black Dahlia case endure, besides its sheer brutality, are the endless theories. Some say it was an angry boyfriend, others point to a powerful doctor with the needed surgical skill. There were even claims of connections to other crimes. But with no solid evidence, no confession, and too many false leads, the file remains open. The Black Dahlia became Hollywood's first great unsolved nightmare, a ghost from the past whose smile in old photographs continues to hide the answer to a question we may never solve. Who hated her enough, or was twisted enough to do such a thing? From the brutal streets of old LA, our next mystery shifts to a very different world in the 1970s. The world of television comedy and a secret, private life. The man at the center was Bob Crane, the star of the popular sitcom Hogan's Heroes. On screen, he was the clever Colonel Hogan, outwitting his captors. Off-screen, he had a passion that would ultimately cast a dark shadow over his life. He was deeply fascinated with recording his own private life, taking countless photographs and videos during a time when that was a rare and secretive hobby. In June of 1978, Bob Crane was found murdered in his apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he was performing in a dinner theater. He had been bludgeoned to death with a heavy object, and the scene lacked any clear signs of a struggle or robbery. The investigation quickly focused on his complex personal life and the people who were part of it. One man, a video electronics expert named John Henry Carpenter, who had often accompanied Bob on his travels, became the prime suspect. There was circumstantial evidence. Tiny specks of blood and tissue were found in Carpenter's rental car. Years later, he was even put on trial. But with no murder weapon ever found, and no direct witness to the crime, the case against him was not strong enough. The jury found him not guilty. And just like that, the investigation hit a wall. The question remains, was it a friend who turned violent? Was it someone else entirely? Someone angry or jealous from the shadowy corners of Bob Crane's private world? The murder of the cheerful Colonel Hogan remains a confusing and sad puzzle, a story of how a hidden life can lead to a very public and unanswered death. Now, let's rewind the clock even further to the very early days of Hollywood, when the film industry was a wild west of its own, and the power of studio moguls was absolute. This mystery involves one of those powerful men and a death that was hushed up with incredible speed. Our story is about Thomas Ince, a pioneering film producer and director often called the father of the Western. In November 1924, Ince was a guest on a luxurious yacht owned by the powerful newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst. The weekend cruise was a who's who of the elite, including Hearst's mistress, the actress Marion Davies, and several other notable figures. What happened on that boat is the subject of decades of whispered rumors. The official story goes that Ince became severely ill during the trip, was taken ashore, and died a few days later at his home. The death certificate stated it was from heart failure. But almost immediately, wild rumors began to spread. The most persistent rumor suggests that Hearst, in a jealous rage over his mistress's attention, mistakenly shot Ince, thinking he was another man. A cover-up was then orchestrated to protect the powerful media tycoon. Witnesses on the boat reportedly changed their stories or were paid off. Evidence vanished. Ince's body was quickly cremated. The official narrative held, but the stench of scandal never faded. Was it a tragic accident, a case of mistaken identity, or just a simple heart attack blown out of proportion by gossip? The truth likely died with the passengers on that yacht. The murder of Thomas Ince, if it was a murder, stands as a stark example of how, in old Hollywood, the rich and powerful could control not just the stories on screen, but the stories of real life and death, leaving us with a historical mystery built entirely on whispers and speculation. For our fourth case, we return to the glamorous 1930s, to the age of speakeasies and comedic stars. This story is about Thelma Todd, a beautiful and successful actress known as the Ice Cream Blonde for her platinum hair and warm personality. She starred in dozens of films with the likes of the Marx Brothers and was a beloved figure. But her life ended in a scenario straight out of a crime film. In December 1935, her body was discovered by her maid inside her luxury car, parked in the garage of a restaurant she co-owned on the Pacific Coast Highway. She was slumped behind the wheel, killed by carbon monoxide poisoning. At first glance, it looked like a tragic accident or even a suicide. But nothing about Thelma Todd's life at that point suggested she wanted to die. In fact, she was at the peak of her career. As detectives dug in, the case grew more complicated. Thelma had connections to some shady characters. Her restaurant was a popular spot, but it was also rumored to be a front for illegal gambling, which brought the attention of organized crime figures. She was also in the middle of a difficult divorce and had been having arguments with a former boyfriend. The official inquest ruled her death a suicide, but almost no one who knew her believed that. The theories are many. Was she killed by gangsters for refusing to cooperate? Was it a violent ex-lover? Or was it an accident after she went to her car to warm up and fell asleep? The problem is the evidence was mishandled from the start, and the case was closed too quickly. The sparkling life of Thelma Todd ended in a cold, dark garage, and the truth about her final moments was buried alongside her, making her another permanent fixture on Hollywood's list of unfinished stories. Now, you've made it this far, and I promised you a final case that is truly bizarre, one that connects the silent film era to a much later and much more brutal time. This is it. So please keep watching, because this last story is the most shocking of them all. It involves a legend from the silent screen, a man who was one of the biggest heartthrobs in the world during the 1920s. His name was Ramon Novarro, a Mexican actor who was famous for playing romantic heroes in films like Ben-Hur. As the talkies arrived, his star power faded, but he lived comfortably in a Hollywood Hills mansion. In October 1968, the police received a call from Novarro's brother, who was worried after not hearing from him. What they found inside the actor's home was a scene of utter savagery. The 69-year-old Novarro was dead, brutally beaten. The house was in disarray, but valuables were left untouched. This was not a robbery. It was personal. The investigation led them to two young brothers, Paul and Tom Ferguson. They were quickly arrested and confessed, but their story was strange and sickening. They claimed they had been hired by a mysterious third party to retrieve something from Novarro's house, something intimate and embarrassing that the old star had kept from his past. When Novarro refused to hand it over, a violent struggle ensued. The brothers were convicted of murder, but they always insisted a shadowy figure had put them up to it. Was this just a cheap thrill kill, a hate crime, or was there some truth to the tale of a hidden secret that someone powerful wanted back? The Ferguson brothers never gave a consistent name, and no other person was ever charged. The The murder of Ramon Novarro is a sad and violent coda to a glorious career, a mystery that suggests even in the late 1960s, the ghosts of old Hollywood could reach out with a very real and deadly grip. It is a confusing and tragic puzzle that reminds us that some secrets are taken to the grave, not by the victim, but by the killers. And there you have it. 5 chilling Hollywood murders that the police could never definitively solve. From the starlet discarded in a field to the silent film legend attacked in his own home decades later, these stories paint a picture of a world where the brightest lights can cast the darkest shadows. They remind us that fame is no shield against danger, and that sometimes the most compelling scripts are the ones without an ending. The files may be cold, but the questions are still burning. What do you think happened? Who do you believe was really behind these tragedies? The theories are endless, and maybe you have your own. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were shocked by these stories, make sure to like this video and share it with someone who loves a good mystery. And of course, subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories hiding behind the world's biggest headlines. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Remember, the truth is out there. Sometimes it's just waiting for the right person to find it.